It was significant that Joe Biden pardoned Leonard Peltier because Leonard Peltier has been in prison for almost 50 years. He's considered by a lot of people to be America's longest serving political prisoner. Leonard Peltier has been in prison for almost 50 years because he was convicted for murdering 2 FBI agents in a shootout on Pine Ridge Reservation in 1975. This reservation happened to be a site where the FBI itself was intentionally fueling tensions between different tribes there because it was part of a grander secret plan by the FBI to infiltrate and destroy a group called AIM, which stands for the American Indian Movement. Part of its strategy was to get different tribes to fight with each other. And in the end, they wanted to disrupt AIM. 2 FBI agents went onto this reservation one day and a shootout started with some Native Americans on the reservation. The 2 FBI agents ended up getting killed. Another Native man who was there got killed. But you don't hear about him very much because the FBI and the government are very focused on the FBI agents. The government launched a manhunt. They put Leonard Peltier in prison with no evidence that he had committed a crime, and they hid evidence, and they lied, and they threatened witnesses to lie. So fast forward through the decades, he stayed in prison. Multiple presidents heard appeals from people to please release Leonard Peltier. The only reason he hasn't been released is because of the FBI. They decided a long time ago they never wanted him to be released because he represents to them the fall guy for them losing 2 agents. And there are grieving families for those 2 agents. So multiple presidents over the years have, even Democratic presidents who have suggested they might release Leonard Peltier, in the end did not. Most notably, President Clinton appeared to be on the edge of doing it until dozens of FBI agents showed up outside the White House and held a protest, which is extremely unusual, and said, don't release Leonard Peltier. And then at the last minute, he did not do it. Fast forward to Joe Biden. Joe Biden, as a president, has really prided himself on his legacy of lifting up tribes and Native communities and doing a lot to right past wrongs.
The federal government has never formally apologized for what happened until today. I formally apologize as President of the United States of America for what we did.
Leonard Peltier over the years has kind of become a symbol of Native Americans in general, of all the injustices that have faced Native Americans and tribes in this country. And he's come to embody something so much bigger than himself for many, many people around the country. For 4 years during Biden's presidency, he was under a lot of pressure from Democratic lawmakers. And that includes U.S. senators and members of Congress, from tribal leaders, from Native rights groups, from celebrities. People have been urging Biden to please free Leonard Peltier before he dies in prison, because Leonard is now 80 years old. He's blind in one eye. He uses a walker to get around. He has diabetes. He has an aortic aneurysm. Biden in 4 years said nothing. And then on his last day as president, literally minutes before his presidency was over, as Donald Trump was being sworn in as president, Biden issued a statement saying that he was commuting Leonard Peltier's sentence and essentially freeing him from prison and letting him spend the last days of his life in home confinement, but back home with family and loved ones around him. It was a huge deal. He did it in the last 15, 20 minutes of his presidency, which was very dramatic. It's also worth noting that President Biden did not explicitly pardon Leonard Peltier. He commuted his sentence. Net effect is that Leonard Peltier is free. But the difference is when you pardon someone, that carries with it a message of forgiveness. You've been forgiven for something that you did wrong, or the government is apologizing you didn't do anything bad. Commuting a sentence doesn't have that. It's just saying you still committed a crime, but out of mercy, this is going to shorten your time in prison. That was an intentional message that Biden sent for the FBI, because the FBI absolutely did not want this to happen. The key here is that Biden is also very proud of his record. He is arguably the strongest ally that tribes and Native communities have ever had in the White House, arguably ever. Native people were ignored. Native people were treated like dogs. Native people were not allowed into certain establishments because they were Native. The crimes were committed against against Native people constantly, and the government turned a blind eye. Leonard was part of this group AIM that was like, that's not okay. We're going to fight back for justice on our own. So he was to many Native people, he was like a hero. And what's surprising and kind of incredible about this case is that Leonard's supporters and loved ones have already purchased a house, set it all up for him, and have had it ready for him to move into the day he comes back. And now that he's free, he has a whole community waiting for him to embrace him and to welcome him home. It took 50 years, but he got out. And that, to me, is a testament to people not giving up and continuing to pound the wall and pound the floor and pound the table and keep arguing and keep showing why it's not right. Because it took 50 years for this to finally happen for Leonard Peltier. But there were countless people over decades who have been screaming about how wrong this is, about how the criminal justice system is so broken. And in the end, people didn't give up. And I think ultimately that is why he got out.